Hello and welcome to the Sideboard, here for the Open Series Spotlight Deck Tech. I'm Ken Crocker, here with Ross Merriam. Ross, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. So we're here with Bant Heroic.
Yeah.
How'd you get talked into playing this one? Did Tom and Todd get into your ear?
Not directly. It's actually an interesting story. I had been working on Sultai Whip, which is what I've been playing for the last few weeks, and working on the different plans that I went over in my article last week. And when I finally settled on a list on the ride here on Friday, I looked at it and I liked it against Control. I had a list that incorporated Deathmist Raptor and Den Protector.
Sure.
But I thought it would be a dog to the other Deathmist Raptor Den Protector decks, the Obzons,
which there are
Bants.
a ton of at this tournament.
And based on social media, with everybody on Facebook and Twitter asking for Deathmist Raptors, I figured there would be a ton of them. And so I resolved to test the matchup the night before, and if not, I had sort of been tempted into Bant Heroic listening to the A-Team podcast that Cedric did when he talked about how he liked the deck. And so I would reconsider my options at that point. We tested a little bit. It took me 3 or 4 games to figure out that the matchup just wasn't going to be very good. I didn't have time to fix it, so I figured, what the hey.
So last minute, deck change, and here you are in the top 8.
Yeah, I audibled to the deck at about 12:30. Built it, read Tom's article, which was great, and bought the cards I needed in the morning, and played my first game with it in round 3 after my buys, and here we are.
And here you are. So there's some few changes between, Tom Ross's and Todd Anderson's in your version. So why don't we talk about some of them? We got the normal heroic guys. We got the favorite Hoplite. That's a 4 of.
Yep.
We got the Hero of Erois to make your spells cheaper. That's also a 4 of. Seeker of the Ways, a 4 of. 2 Laguna Band Trailblazers. I've seen 3 or 4 in certain decks. And then 2 Monastery Mentors. So how did you come to these numbers?
So one, when I've played against Heroic in the past, this card, I've always pumped my fist when they played it.
The Laguna Band
Trailblazer?
Yeah,
the Laguna Band Trailblazer. Because it just takes so much time to get going to have a threat that actually pressures them. And the one good thing it does is against opposing aggro decks, the 0-4 body can block and buy you some time to set up, which is nice. And I know Tom and Todd, I think, both had 3 in their 75, maybe not all 3 main. And I knew I didn't want that many. I almost never wanted to draw 2,
sure.
But I did want a number of 1-drops, because being able to go 1-drop into an ordeal is really nice, really strong start on the play. And also on the draw, if they have an elf or Elvish Mystic into Courser Crufix, and you have 1-drop into Dramaca's Command, you can make them sack an enchantment and have your guy fight their elf and kill their entire board.
Wow,
So the 1-drops lead into really nice turn 2. So I wanted a certain number of them, and I decided on 6, but I wasn't going to go higher than that. Mentor is a card that I liked in theory, because this version of the deck, to make room for commands, gets rid of some of the evasive cards that the old Blue-White Heroic decks had.
Aqueous Form,
Stratus Dance.
Walk.
Dance is the new Stratus Walk is the
Stratus Walk.
So it got rid of those, or none in the main. And when your opponent clogs up the board, Monastery Mentor can create a huge board for yourself, and you can sort of set up, especially with Treasure Cruise, which you can now play in more copies with the number of fetch lands in the deck.
So you're running the 8 fetch lands and 2 Treasure Cruise main and 2 Treasure Cruise sideboard. I'd say, a card that's banned in Legacy and Modern, and you get to play 4 of them. I mean, that seems like a pretty sweet innovation right there.
Yeah, that's all Tom. So I copied this list on those 4, and they've been great. I had one game where I drew both of them after mulling to 6, and they were awkward, but I could have played that game better, so that I think they still would have been good. It's been a card that I've almost always wanted to draw in certain situations, and against Control, it's really, really nice to be able to fight through their removal spells. The games go long, you can fire off 2, even 3 cruises in a game pretty easily.
So we also have 1 Ordeal of Heliod to go with the 4 Ordeals of Thassa. So Ordeal of Heliod hasn't seen as much play lately. Is there any particular reason why you wanted to add that? Thought you might run into red?
Yeah, I expected a decent number of aggro decks. Not too many, but with the way we skewed the sideboard against Control, you definitely want to be still prepared against the aggro decks, and this is the best card against them. I knew I wanted 3 in my 75, and Tom and Todd differ a little. I think Tom had 2 main, 1 board, and Todd had none main, maybe 2 in the board. So, I know I wanted 3 in my 75, and just with the other cards that I wanted, I fit 1 in the main and 2 in the sideboard.
So speaking of that sideboard that you have for Control, let's talk about it. It's almost mono blue. Yep. We already talked about the 2 other Treasure Cruise, but we got 3 Stubborn Denial, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 3 Encase in Ice, 2 Aqueous Form, and then the 2 Ordeal of Heliod's that you just mentioned. So The ones that seem to stand out to me are the Encase and Ice and the Stubborn Denial. Now, I'm sure you don't bring those in the same matchups maybe, but can you tell me what these 2 cards are doing for you?
So Stubborn Denial is one of your best cards against control decks because you can usually build 1 reasonable threat, and a 1 mana counterspell is obviously incredibly mana efficient. Also, their best cards against you cost 3, 4, 5 mana, and you're usually pressuring them enough and they have come to play tap lands, that you can just cast it for its normal mode, and the Force Spike is good enough. So it's just about having the most efficient spell possible in a deck that only has 22 lands and wants to be tapping out on its main phase. And the other nice thing about Stubborn Denial relative to Disdainful Stroke is that it comes in against red aggressive decks. Those decks play a pile of burn spells and Hordeling Outburst and Dragon Fodder, so you can usually Stubborn Denial early and then maybe later counter their lethal burn spell or their burn spell targeting a creature. So it pulls some double duty, so you lean in the split more towards Stubborn Denial.
Seems very versatile then.
Yeah, it's really good. The old blue-white decks used to play like 2 main and maybe 1 or 2 more on the board. So it's been a staple of these decks for a while, and that's definitely not going to change, even though we no longer have room for them in the main. So Encase and Ice is a nice added removal spell against Deathmist Raptor. You can tap it down, they can't bring it back. Against dragons, it's really good. Stormbreath Dragon specifically, because obviously you have a hard time getting through that. And it is also very good against Hornet Nest, which is a popular sideboard card in the green decks.
Hornet Nest almost gave you some problems one time.
Yeah, on camera against Chris Anderson, he played it pretty early in game 2, but I was fortunate enough to have an aqueous form that he couldn't answer, so I just got through it that way. But Encase and Ice also serves that pretty well. And it's nice because it synergizes with Hero of Heroes. You can cast it for 1 mana at instant speed. 1 mana spells are great. So.
1 mana spells do tend to be great. I guess that's what the Treasure Cruises are there for as well.
Yep.
All right, Ross. Well, good luck in your top 8 match. Thanks for taking the time to side us in from the sideboard.
Thanks for having me.
You guys enjoy the rest of the videos here at the Open Series Spotlight.